One. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Delusions of Grandeur. I'm your host, David Stregi, and here in the room I have with me Boris, all the way from Croatia. How are you doing, Boris?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Doing okay, but I must turn the lights out here
Oh,
because we
wow.
are about to journey into another
Oh,
adaptation of the old Dark House. And it's originally based on a book written in 1927 called Benighted by J.B. Priestley. And the cast of this 1932 version of the film includes Boris Karloff, Melvin Douglas, Gloria Stewart, Charles Lofton, Raymond Massey, and Ernest Thesiger or Thesiger. So, before I delve into this entirely, um, how how about we see exactly um, what IMDb says about this film?
sounds
So,
like a plan.
seeking shelter from a storm, five travelers are in for a bizarre and terrifying night when they stumble upon the family estate. So, first impressions of this film are well, Boris, you saw the last one. What did you think about this film? And this film was done way before the other one.
Yeah, well, I have to say there were many things about this movie that surprised me a bit. I mean, this is the first time I have seen the case of a remake being turned into a murder mystery story when the original was not a murder mystery. That was something pretty new to me. Like, before I went to watch this movie, I remembered the remake which we discussed last time, and I was wondering if the killer was going to be the same person who it was in the remake, but then it turned out there wasn't really a murderer in the first place in this one. So that was pretty surprising.
They made
Uh,
it seem like there was going to be a murder for sure, though.
well, yeah, okay, there was one death later on, but it was more like an accident than a murder. Uh, yeah, and well, one thing I noticed about this movie is at first I got the impression that the remake had a bit of a better developed story, but on the other hand, an interesting thing to notice is that there could be a very good video game adaptation of this movie. Like, if you were one of the visitors and if the emphasis was on exploring this weird house and this weird family and their secrets, I think that would be interesting.
Yes, it would. And to be honest, I actually think I saw actually bits and pieces of this film when I was a kid. I just didn't realize that it was it.
Oh,
I
wow.
in all honesty, today was the first time I'd actually viewed this film, and I see similarities between this film and the other adaptation that we saw.
Mm,
Whereas there are people who are evidently um, going into spouts of nursery rhyme and song, like their friend Mr. Pendleton or
Pedro.
Penderel. He
Uh,
was quite saying some odd sayings in this very beginning part where they are in the vehicle. You know, apparently they're on their way to somewhere, and they end up in a storm, and they end up at a home that they did not expect to be during.
eh, yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, there were something.
What do
Yes.
you think about these first three characters?
Well, at first I was surprised to realize there was going to be more than one visitor to the house because in the remake we had only Tom Penderell and the Fem family, but here we had these three visitors, so that was surprising. And also, we didn't really get to know much about each of them from what I understood. Like, we didn't even get to know where they were going in the first place. Or,
Well, it looks like the first two that are sitting in the driver's seat and passenger seat, um, those two are, let's see, uh,
the Wavertons, if I remember correctly.
yeah, I believe that Gladys is played by Lillian Bond, and Philip Waverton, that he was played by Raymond Massey, and Waverton was kind of with Gladys, and then of course Charles Lofton was that Sir William Porterhouse, which he was also he also brought along a companion. So
Yeah.
that companion. Okay, so it was Philip and Margaret Waverton. Those two were actually married, but
Oh,
Gladys and Sir William Porterhouse were the two that arrived later on.
oh, you mean they are married in the movie
Well,
or
yeah,
also in
they're married
real life?
in the movie, but Raymond Massey
Oh,
and Gloria Stewart play Philip and Margaret Waverton. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
what did you think about them two as a couple?
I'm sorry, which couple, the Wavertons or the other ones? Whew. Well, mm, they were okay, although, like I said, I got the impression we didn't get to know enough about them, but it was interesting to see them because they weren't there in the remake, so it's kind of an addition to this story,
Yeah,
and
their backgrounds weren't really fleshed out really all that well, were they? What they were in life or whatnot. All we know is that they were a couple of friends on their way somewhere, and they end up caught in the storm in this old gloomy house. And
well, yeah.
the the other two come along, and we don't learn much about them except for maybe the fact that them two are kind of somewhat. I thought that I assumed that they were somewhat married, and which or at least together. And
Um, yeah, I think you mean William and Gladys, right?
correct, because I got the impression that they were together, all in the sense
Mm,
that they in the sense that they could be. she gives him money, and he gives her money, and she gives him companionship. And
Yeah, I think
supposedly,
something like that was mentioned.
supposedly his wife had had died, so but she ended up having starting to have instant feelings for Mr. Penderell,
Yeah.
which I thought was kind of an interesting character because it seemed like Philip Waverton was kind of a stick in the mud at first. And
uh,
Penderell had some humor because he kept going into like random verses and singing. But so did Sir William Porterhouse. He started going into a roast beef song, which sounded somewhat Irish, I guess, or English. But
Possibly. Well,
what did you what did you think about Charles Lofton's character, Mister William Porterhouse? His character.
I was actually pretty surprised by him. Like at the end, near the end, when he found out that Gladys and Roger Penderell had gotten together, like he didn't seem very upset about it. He was pretty much okay with it. I didn't expect that.
um, as far as the family of the Fems, what did you think of Horace Fem and Rebecca Fem?
Uh, I was pretty intrigued by them because they weren't in the previous version I saw. In the remake they weren't there, so I was curious to figure out which characters from the remake were based on them, but. In the end, they didn't turn out very similar to anyone we saw in the remake. But
No, in fact, they were entirely different characters, a little bit. And there was a character that did kind of get biblical a little bit. So there is that where our Saul, the one that was
oh,
supposedly locked in the top room.
oh, yeah, there were some biblical references. In this one, it was about the story of David and Saul, while in the remake, it was about Noah's Ark. Uh,
And this time it was about the jealousy of Saul and David.
I, yeah,
Because Saul was the king, and while David was growing up and anointed by the Lord, Saul was jealous of the Lord's attention to David in the story of the Bible. But I guess when it came to him trying to kill David, he tried to kill him with a lance, and instead of a lance, it was just a long knife. But there is a character that I have not mentioned yet. Morgan, what did you think?
oh,
Was he your?
well, I think he was the most similar one to his counterpart in the remake. But yeah, this one seemed a bit more sinister and more intimidating. Uh,
Oh yeah.
the
Well,
actor did a really good job portraying this
oh
character.
yeah. Boris Barloff or Boris Karloff. Oh wait, not you. No. Okay.
No,
Okay. Just
although
just making sure.
funnily,
Yeah.
funnily enough, my character in Dark Zone 13 is also completely mute, never says a single word.
But in any case, Boris Karloff has played the Frankenstein monster before in Universal films, and let me just say that this film is a Universal film as
Oh,
well. So
yeah.
and this particular um, this particular film, the other adaptation was Hammer's adaptation of the story. So um, the one in the future, the one from the 1940s. But in any case, I relatively enjoy Boris Karloff in everything that I see. He also played the Mummy in the original The Mummy, um, and he's
Oh,
played quite a few characters that, over the years. He's also played along with Charles Lofton in several films. One I will say is The Island of Lost Souls. That was a film that he played alongside Charles Lofton in. And Charles Lofton, the guy who plays um, William Porterhouse, he as well plays a very cool rendition of the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Uh,
oh,
it's not the silent version of the film, but I do believe it is the better version of the film, um, at least in black and white. I seem to remember him saying such words as "sanctuary, sanctuary." But he definitely is an interesting character, at least to me. Anytime that he shows up in anything, Charles Lofton, you know he's there. So I'm not sure if you've seen him in anything, but once you've seen him, I guarantee you'll recognize him in some of these films. Maybe I'll introduce you to a few other films that Charles Lofton is in. So,
oh, you could.
but in any case, what did you think about the character of Roderick Fem?
Oh, well, that one was really unexpected. Like in the remake, he was of the same age as many other characters, and in this one, he was older. He was supposedly the father of Rebecca and
Yeah,
Horace, and
he was supposedly the father, and yet he was
uh,
in fact played by a
by
female.
a woman. Yeah, yeah, I noticed that, but do you possibly know why they cast a woman to play a male character? Was
Probably
there?
because as old as Methuselah as he was, due to his age, maybe they thought that having his voice be a female, an elderly woman, would probably show you his age, maybe. Because
Well, could
the
be.
older you get, the higher your voice tends to get, or the lower. Sometimes your voice goes lower, but sometimes your voice goes higher in age. It all depends.
That could be the reason. Yeah.
So, what did you think about the house?
Oh, the house looked really cool. I kind of wish I could see a colored version of it.
So can I.
Uh,
Let's see. I'm trying to see if I can see where it was filmed. I know some of it was probably filmed on a set, but let's see. Okay, So, those are quotes. Oh, okay. It says it was filmed in Universal Studios on 100 Universal City Plaza, Universal City, California. And the film at the box office grossed, oh, geez, um, $25,678. Which
Oh,
at that time was actually relatively decent, believe it or not.
well, yeah, yeah, makes sense.
But it had a cumulative worldwide gross of 34,649. So I guess it wasn't exactly uh, it wasn't exactly filmed at any particularly um, house, as sometimes we find that they're done at like this specific house. I believe that the house was built in the studio, and and whatever rooms were within the home were in fact you know uh,
Well, could be.
studio built rooms. But it was kind of interesting how that staircase just went up and up.
Yeah, well, I don't know exactly how they made it, but it really looked cool. Like it had these aesthetics of a haunted house, which I really liked.
It was definitely a very quotable film. This was, I guess, this was Boris Karloff's first credited starring role.
Wow, really?
His name had been left off the Frankenstein in 1931 publicly in packages and only credited in the end credits of the film. So,
Wow. Any reason why?
not sure why. And
Hmm.
although this was the only film with both Raymond Massey and Boris Karloff, Massey would go on to play Karloff's role in the film of Arsenic and Old Lace, because the producers of the Broadway show, which was still running when the film was shot, wouldn't release Karloff.
Whew. Huh.
So the Old Dark House in 1932 was withdrawn from circulation when the remake, The Old Dark House, in 1963 by William Castle Productions was released. This film was considered to be lost until director Curtis Harrington discovered a printable negative. Huh.
Wow. I didn't know that. Interesting.
I guess in a 1988 interview, Gloria Stewart recalled that Boris Karloff ran back and forth across the stage to achieve the desired effect of being out of breath. She asked him, "Can't you just fake it?" He said that wasn't the way he worked.
That's interesting. Uh,
I guess this was the first American film of Charles Lofton from UK and Raymond Massey from Canada. So that was interesting. Gloria Stewart said in a 1988 interview that she and Melvyn Douglas were decidedly outnumbered as the English cast never once asked them to join them for tea breaks. She later remarked that Boris Karloff was sad, supercilious, and cavalier. While most of the cast dressed in English tweeds, James Whale, the director, wanted Gloria Stewart to wear a pale pink satin dress because he wanted her to look like a beautiful flame when Karloff chased her down the halls.
That's interesting, although I wonder how come the color was apparently important if the movie was black and white.
Yep. Gloria Stewart recalled on the film's DVD commentary that Melvin Douglas and Raymond Massey hated filming the opening sequence, which was a very cold, wet night shoot. She, however, thought it was a lot of fun,
Hmm.
and even if she had not been enjoying herself, she was so new to the film business that she didn't want to cause any trouble by complaining. Due to
Uh,
copyright issues resulting from the 1963 remake, the 1932 version of The Old Dark House was not broadcast on television until 1994.
Whoa.
In the beginning, Melvin Douglas is Singing in the Rain. That movie didn't come out until 1952, but the actual song came out in 1929. The
Hmm.
rights to this film reverted to novelist J.B. Priestley after 25 years. The film was then purchased by Raymond Rahauer, whose company still owns it, administered by Doris Corp.
Uh, yeah, I saw the movie was based on a novel. Uh,
Yeah, the movie was based on the novel called Benighted. So,
yeah.
and that book was written in 1927 by J.B. Priestley. So, I have not read the book, but I know I would definitely love to.
Oh,
Be-
yeah, it would be interesting.
because it is of five strangers that end up in a creepy old house.
Definitely.
So, what did you think of the plot? So, what happens here is, as we said, like five strangers end up at this old house, and there is an interesting cast of characters here. You have a butler, kind of a caretaker taker that kind of goes mad when he's drunk. Uh,
Uh,
Another guy who claims he's the brother to the sister who owns this place, and that would be that they are um, Rebecca and Horace Femme. And Horace Femme is a little afraid of going all the way to the top to deal with or anywhere be close to where Saul Femme is evidently locked up inside. They claim he is a madman, and they are afraid of him, all of them.
uh, yeah, well, that was an interesting part, especially the way they portrayed this character Saul. I'm sorry.
That's
I was
okay.
going to, thank you. I was going to say his portrayal was very interesting because when they describe him, you imagine him as some big, scary, threatening guy. But when you see him on screen for the first time, he doesn't really look that threatening, which makes you think they were either exaggerating or maybe even lying about him for some reason. But then when you see some things he does, you realize there was actually a good reason why they said about him everything they did.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, I agree. First beginning scene when he opens up the door and all you see is his face. It's a close up of his face, and he goes like, and then he closes the door, and then of course you hear a small gong going off in the background, but then he opens up the door and motions them in, and That's when the brother Horace comes down the stairs, and he's this thin, gauntly kind of a character. Uh, and he's like, "Well, Morgan kind of mumbled to us kind of who you were, but why don't you tell us who you are?" Of course, some of this film is quite quotable. Let's see here. On a dark and stormy night, the Waverton's car got stuck in the mud. Hell, what are you stopping for? Arrest. Really, Philip, you can't stop here. Either go on or go back. You can't expect me to spend the night like a half-drowned rat on the mountainside. It's better to stop and drive the car gently over a cliff, isn't it?
Yeah, that was a funny moment.
Our Horace's favorite line: "Have a potato."
Yeah, I think there was a moment when he said it to end some heated up discussion, but I don't remember exactly what it was about.
Right? Let's see. Fine stuff, but it'll rot. Finer stuff still, but it too will rot.
Yeah, that was what Rebecca said, right?
My sister was on the point of arranging these flowers as he tosses them into the fire. Even Welsh ought not to sound like that. They were all godless here. They used to bring their women here, brazen, lolling creatures in silks and satins. They filled the house with laughter and sin. And if I ever went down among them, my own father and brothers, they would tell me, "Go away and pray." And I prayed and left them with their lustful red and white women.
Yeah, you really do a good job impersonating her.
The fact is, Morgan is an uncivilized brute. Sometimes he drinks heavily. A night like this will set him going on. And once he's drunk, he's rather dangerous. It's only gin, you know. Only gin. I like gin.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah,
when I see it. That's an odd line there.
Yeah, this movie did have some. I'm sorry. Could you repeat this last one? I had a sound glitch.
How the hell do you see wind unless you break it? Oh, nothing like roast beef when a man's hungry. Yeah. Oh, the roast beef of the Old England. How does it go? Do you remember that, Mr. Waverton? Or was that before your time? Pendero's our song expert. Oh, so you're a musical, are you? Well, I've got a bit of good ear myself. Have a potato.
Yeah.
So, do you have any favorite scenes from this film?
That's an interesting question. Well, I guess it would be the encounter with Saul because that was the most suspenseful scene. Although some encounters with Morgan were interesting as well.
I think one of my favorite scenes is the moment when she tells Margaret or Rebecca tells Margaret how rotten she might get for some reason, because when she's undressing, she thinks that she is just as sinful.
Yeah.
Just the way that she is very on point with everything, even though she is off her rocker just a little bit. They're all quite mad in their own way, to me, because when what's his name went to his room, he came back out and told him kill him when he comes back down here. Uh, because there's a moment where Morgan he ends up going back up the stairs after he was hit on the head with that big ass lantern,
Yeah.
and down comes Saul.
Uh, yeah, he really was an interesting one.
What did you think about his relationship with Flame?
Whew. Well, yeah, it was said that he had, if I remember correctly, he had apparently tried to set the house on fire in the past, right?
Yes.
Uh, yeah, and they said he was going to try it again, and he did try, but eventually he didn't manage to cause much damage. But was it even said why he was trying to do that? I can't remember
Because
exactly.
just because he was a pyromaniac, he
Uh,
loves to set fires, loves to play with. In
uh,
fact, he regarded a flame as it were to a knife.
oh yeah, yeah. He did say something. He did describe flames in some pretty unique way, but I can't remember it exactly word by word. How he said it, something about knife and ice. Do you possibly have that quote somewhere? I
Let's
I
see.
watched the movie for the first time today, so I didn't memorize all the details.
That's okay. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see. Okay, no, they don't have it among the quotes here. But
Uh,
they do have a couple of Horace and Femme ones. What is it? What do they want? Allow me to introduce my sister, Miss Rebecca Femme. How do you do? What are they doing here? What do they want? How do you do? What did they say? What do they want? What are they doing here? What's all the fuss about? You must excuse my sister. She's a little deaf. In fact, she's quite deaf.
mm,
Horace, what are you doing? We aren't all heathens. Oh, I had forgotten my sister's strange tribal habits. The beef will seem less tough when she has invoked a blessing upon it. Horace, Fem, if I can't hear, I can see you're blaspheming. On the contrary, my dear Rebecca, I'm merely telling your wonderful guests that you are about to thank your gods for their bounty. That'll do. I know you're mocking, lying tongue. To thank them for the health and prosperity and happiness granted to this family, for its years of peace and plenty, to thank them for having created Rebecca Fem and Roderick Fem and Saul. Stop! But, well, for heaven's sake, stop. Let's look at a map or something. My view is we're not on a map.
uh, yeah, yeah.
But in any case, I will have to say that I rather enjoyed this one as much as I enjoyed the other one, even though this one did not have as much uh, comedy.
Um,
It had more stiff comedy than anything else.
yeah, it did.
It had interesting characters. There were characters that you could laugh at and laugh with, and it had darker tones on it for me. Although in the very beginning, when I hear him singing in the rain, it was definitely different words that we hear than singing unless that's a different line than we're used to. But it was definitely intriguing to hear him say some of the odd words that he said. See if I can find who did the music for this film.
I can't remember.
I'll pull it up here for a moment. All right, so the person who did the music. Okay, the music. The title of the title music was done by David Brockman, who lived from about 1899 to 1958. So he lived about 59 years. And I guess okay. The last, okay, Savage Fury, Think Fast, the Call of the Savage, Strange as It Seems, number 6, The Brand of Hate, Law of the Wild. A lot of these are 1934, 1935, The Brand of Hate, The Lost Jungle, Smoking Guns, Honor of the Range, The Lost Jungle, Pirate Treasure, Gun Justice, Perils of Pauline, Saturday's Millions, Lucky Dog, The Old Dark House, Backstreet, My Pal the King, Tom Brown of Culver, Heroes of the West, Fast Companions, Law and Order, House of Mystery, Heaven and Earth, Frankenstein. So he was the musical director in the original Frankenstein. And James Whale was also the director of the original Frankenstein.
Cool.
So that's interesting. And that was done in 1931, the original Frankenstein. So that was kind of cool learning that. And I guess the original All Quiet on the Western Front was done in 1930, and he did the music for that film. That was a war film that I know of. I'm not sure I have it per se, but let's see what else is here. Anything else? Hell's Heroes, White Hell of Pitts Palu, Trial Marriage. Oh, I guess he was the composer of the original Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, wow.
With Lon Chaney Jr. That was a 1925 version. I guess, yeah, he was the composer for that movie too. So that's kind of cool. Let's see. Looking. Yep, he was one of them, but there was a music contractor by the name of James Fitzpatrick. The score was arranged by Eugene Conte, and the stock music, several of the stock music was composed by Arthur Jentz, Hugo Reisenfield, William Schiller, and Max Winkler was the one who did the music cue sheet. Oh, okay. Alrighty. So, yeah, worked on the original Phantom of the Opera. So that was kind of cool. To figure out that the music composer was somewhat behind some of those films. So, did you have anything else that you wanted to add about this film before we um, ended our discussion.
Well, there actually was one interesting detail I noticed that I wanted to discuss. Do you remember how when the Wavertons and Pendrell entered the house, Rebecca Fell was openly hostile towards them, and she wanted to push them away. She was forbidding them to do this and that and so on, while they had a more timid and pleading attitude, like they really needed some shelter from the storm, and they were like begging to be accepted there for a night, and she was treating them the way she did. But then later, when William and Gladys came, and they were a bit more relaxed and less respectful towards them, and in that moment, Rebecca didn't really have the courage to treat them like she treated the first three characters at the beginning.
Um, so what did you want to know?
Uh, oh, well, I'm sorry, what did you say?
So, what did you not understand about that whole
Oh,
scenario there?
no, no, I understood it all. I just wanted to say it was interesting to see like how
Oh, the differences
people
in
with
hostility. The differences
yeah.
that the way that Rebecca femme treated them at first, because at first it was hostile, because she didn't want them there, right?
Yeah, but I mean, since the Wavertons and the Pendrell were a bit more timid, it was easier for her to treat them the way she did. But when these other people didn't show any fear from her or not much respect, she didn't really have the courage to mistreat them like she did the first ones. I was trying to say it's interesting how you can deal with hostile people like her. Just don't act like you are afraid of them, and then they will possibly back down a bit.
Very true, very true. Like I said, I think that every single one of them were at least a little bit slightly mad, maybe from being alone in the house together for so long. For so long. I mean, in the remake, they had to be there in the home because of the will. Remember?
Yeah.
Whereas these guys were just fugly creatures, and uh,
Yeah, I was actually wondering, like in this movie, we didn't
that's
really find out.
related for long years at a time, and maybe having to deal with the secret of their locked up family member Saul, who
Uh,
quite mad.
yeah, and I think they mentioned someone getting murdered in the past, but I can't quite remember what they said about that.
I thought they said something about a daughter or a wife or something like that. Um,
Uh, yeah,
um, but I'm not entirely certain about whom. And everyone said that Morgan was dangerous when he was drunk. So,
Uh, well, yeah, that was
which he
true.
did get quite dangerous with Margaret Waverly.
Oh, oh
At,
yeah, indeed.
she chased her around the room and threw the whole entire dining table over. So To me, it looked like he had some strength on him. So when she
Um,
ran into her husband, that was probably a good thing.
yeah, definitely.
But I thought that Hendro was an interesting character, especially since we thought that he died there for a moment.
Yeah, yeah.
But then when she realized that he was alive and it ended up being the cold light of day uh, in the morning. And did you see how Horace? Uh, he it seemed like a burden had been lifted from him. His gloom was no longer upon him that morning. He was, in fact, in good spirits that morning because he when he said goodbye to them, he was actually quite lighthearted. Where the night before he had like some impending doom and gloom mood going
Oh, oh. Y- Yeah, that's interesting. I must admit I didn't pay so much attention to that. What do you think it could mean?
on. Could mean that their troubles were somewhat over, maybe.
Oh, oh,
Maybe because Saul was like hurt for quite a little bit, or at least I'm not sure if he died. Did Saul die?
well, I think he did. I think they didn't outright say anything, but when Morgan held his body, he looked somewhat shocked and affected. So I think Saul did die.
It's possible. I mean, you never know with some of these movies. So
Uh,
you were
well,
left
that's true.
you were left wondering if he did indeed die or if he was just, you know, uh,
Uh,
in shock or had knocked himself the fuck out. I don't know.
yeah.
But Morgan certainly carried him up the stairs like he really cared for him.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So, in any case, on that note, I think we've covered everything for the most part. It is kind of a straightforward film. I mean, it didn't go as crazy as the following one, but I do like both films. What about you?
Yeah, I do like them both. It was interesting to see both versions and figure out which parts of the remake were inspired by which parts of the original. And uh, Also, it was interesting to see how different they are, as I mentioned in the beginning.
Well, and I enjoy a good film that's done in black and white. And this film brought about an eeriness of sorts. I mean, it had an interesting mood to it, so it was entertaining to me.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was more of a brooding, somewhat stiff comedy, horror comedy, because it had some laughable moments, but it didn't have as many laughs as the previous film. Don't you think?
Well, yeah, I think the remake had more humor than this one.
Oh yeah, for sure, and more outlandish, more outlandish with its um, um, plot line or whatnot, which It begs to mention that William Castle was an entertainer, and he enjoyed um, bringing films that would um, have the audience be a little bit more involved with his story line. So, in any case, alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's all the time we have for today. Though I appreciate you all spending time with us and listening to our preamblings about this film. I mean, I thought that there were some very odd moments of the film. It is definitely
Yeah, definitely.
film that has some history involved in it, where it didn't see almost the light of day for a little bit because of its predecessor, which we went on about first. In fact, it was supposedly said to be almost lost at one point in time. So,
Yeah.
but in any case, next week I think we'll be going on about another William Castle film. So stay tuned for that, folks. I definitely recommend this film. Normally, I would have had us watch this film first, but I decided to have us watch the previous one first because that's the one that I knew, and this is the one that I didn't know. So I thought we'd do it a little differently this time, just to see that transition of going from newer to older. And
Yeah.
I mean, normally we've gone from original to remake.
Yes.
So going backwards and seeing how it was originally adapted is a little bit different. So, well, it's going at it from a different viewpoint. So, but next week we are going to probably be discussing the film House on Haunted Hill.
Oh, nice.
So definitely get excited, ladies and gentlemen. I enjoy that film, and maybe we might do the remake as well. So,
Cool.
in one kit and caboodle, if Boris is up to the task of double teaming these bitches.
I don't mind. We could do that.
Alrighty, then I will see if I can't at least get that other film out to you as well. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Have a great day, evening, and morning wherever you are.
Yeah, thank you all.
Turn on the lights now. It's not as dark as it used to be. And enjoy the fine weather that we are having. So have a good evening, ladies and gentlemen, or morning, wherever you are. Thank you so much.
Thank you.